The Avatar series seems like a perfect fit for video game adaptation. Unfortunately, previous attempts at bringing the cartoon to consoles resulted in what most people remember only as that game with the really easy to unlock achievements. But now, the much-loved folks at Platinum Games are taking a stab at adapting the series, with the downloadable title, The Legend of Korra. The game takes place between the second and third seasons of the show, but has its own standalone story. Basically, some evil guy shows up, blocks Korra's bending abilities, and she goes off on a quest to get her powers back and stop whatever non-specific chaos he hopes to wreak upon the world. It's a bare-bones narrative that doesn't do the source material any great favors, but it serves well enough to take you to a few of the show's locations and beat up on baddies. There's a dash of pro-bending, a trip into the spirit world, but all of it in service of nothing more than punching a load of enemies en route to the final boss. There are only a handful of enemy types, so you'll be fighting the same sort of goons from start to finish. Once you've cleared the game once, you can play it on a higher difficulty setting, but unlike most of Platinum's other efforts, the baddies don't get any new moves or strategies, there are just more of them. It does make for some really frustrating encounters though, once they mix in a whole load of guys who can stun you with a whole load of guys whose attacks can't be blocked or countered. Thankfully, you can buy a lot of helpful items in the shop with the spirit energy you obtain from defeating enemies and smashing pots. There are basic healing items as well as equipment that can increase your attack power at the expense of your health, increase the amount of spirit energy you gain, and more. You can also buy extended combo moves. Of course, it wouldn't be a Platinum game if there weren't combos. Each of the 4 bending styles has its own set of combos, but the system isn't nearly as deep as the likes of Devil May Cry or Bayonetta. Combos are short, basic, and easy to perform, and each of the 4 elements has its own obvious uses. Earthbending attacks are slow but unblockable. Water has the longest range, fire is fast, and air hits in a wide area of effect. As you use each style, they level up and increase in power, and each new combo has its own use. It's possible to switch your bending art in the middle of a combo as well, but since the game doesn't have a stylish meter, and the big damage comes from doing a full combo in one style, there's no incentive to stray from the basics at all, and I personally found that, on extreme difficulty at least, airbending was by far and away the most useful since it hits so many opponents at once, and my final score didn't seem to suffer for it. I wasn't able to go full platinum though, and for stylish action purists out there, the game doesn't keep track of damage taken. The simplicity of the system would make The Legend of Korra a nice pick for beginner players of the genre. You can just mash the XXX and the YYY and be sucked just fine for the most part, and the window for counter moves is quite large. Once things start to heat up though, fighting the same one-attack baddies in increasingly larger numbers starts to wear thin. The game isn't very long, and although you can replay levels over with all your maxed out powers, the lack of depth means you'll never be completely satisfied with combat, always wanting a new test of your skills, always wanting a better reason to use all 4 elements in conjunction. There are occasional Temple Run-esque segments thrown in for variety, but they're really not very interesting at all. There's also a pro-bending mini-game unlocked after beating the main game, but it too is too simple to be fully enjoyable. The Legend of Korra just isn't the game it should be. With more depth to the combat, more variety to the enemies, more reference to the show, it could have been truly great. Platinum Games presents The Legend of Korra. It just sounds so perfect. Unfortunately, it plays like a budget knockoff of Platinum Games' The Legend of Korra.
That's a big one.